Welcome to Faith Works. Real life, real truth. I'm Josh Mullins, and together we'll explore how biblical truth shapes the way we live every day. No fluff, just real talk, real faith, and a real God who's with us in it all. Glad you're here. Welcome back, everybody. Josh Mullins here. We are going to continue in the teaching from my book that will be out soon, probably in a few months, called Over It. And we're going to dive into this thing. So we're going to talk about offense is impossible. But what happens next is your choice. Now, offense will come. It's a fact of life. So we need to face offense is going to happen no matter what. Jesus said it plainly in Luke chapter 17, verse 1. He said, it is impossible but that offenses will come. There's two parts to this. But woe unto him through whom they come. Impossible, not unlikely, not rare, impossible to avoid. Now there's two parts to Luke 17:1. We only tend to focus on the first part, which it says, it is impossible, but that offenses will come. We look at it as selfish motives, like, I don't want to be offended. It's about me. I don't want to be offended. But there's a part here, the second part, that we kind of brush over. It says, but woe unto him through whom they come. What this is saying is, when you get offended, don't become the offender. When sin is done against you, don't let that offense create sin in you. Don't repay evil for evil, it says in the Bible. So offense will find you no matter how hard you try to dodge it. People will hurt you. They'll betray your trust, and some will talk behind your back. Others will wound you in ways that run so deep it feels like you've never fully healed. It's not a question of if, but when. It happens to all of us. There's nothing new under the sun. There's no body that's never been touched by offense. One of the things that really surprised me is a lot of people think they are the only ones that have ever been hurt. Now, I was in that trap too, because I felt like my story would outweigh your story. And throughout this teaching, this book that I wrote, you're never going to hear me expose those that have hurt me, because love covers a multitude of sin. And we're supposed to exercise the same level of grace that God gave unto us, no matter what it was. One thing that I learned is that when you feel like you're the only one that's been hurt, that your problem is so ridiculously hurtful, which it may be hurtful. But the Lord hit me with another below the belt moment, and that's what I call them, because they hit you below the belt. And so I was sitting there dwelling on my past, all the past hurts, all the things that were said and done to me. I'm talking about people that were supposed to love me, were supposed to care for me, were the very ones that were hurting me and defiling me. They were hurting me with their words, with their actions, fists, you name it. But the thing is I'm not going to go into that, because one of the things I remember the Lord said to me, this is the below the belt moment that made me mad at God. We could focus on our hurts all day long, but God hit me with something. And he said, what you went through was insignificant. Oh man, I tell you what, that really made me mad. I was already kind of angry at God anyway, just because of the things that I was going through. And I said, where were you, God, when I was going through this? Why did you allow this? Why? just some of the things that I went through. And the people that know me well know what I went through. But the thing is, what I went through, when God said it was insignificant, it made me mad. I became offended and highly angry at God. I was like, are you kidding me? You knew what was done to me. You knew what was done to me. How dare you say that my pain and my hurt was insignificant? How dare you? It burnt me up. And one of the things that he said to me, actually, I didn't speak to God for a while, but the funny thing is I still managed to read his word, and I was reading about the Apostle Paul with his sufferings and what he went through, being shipwrecked, snake bit, beaten, and left for dead. Just every time he entered a town, he was persecuted, and people wanted to kill him, just like Jesus, which they did kill Jesus, but he rose again. But Paul made this statement after all the things that he went through. Paul said, my afflictions are but light. And I was like, man, for some reason it hit me differently. My afflictions are but light. And I thought about that for a minute. And I said, man, with all the stuff that I went through, I've never been, nobody tried to kill me, or I've never been snake bit or shipwrecked, or every time I went somewhere, people were persecuting me. I didn't have that level of pain. And I said this, and this is where God got me to talk to him again. I said, man, Lord, what is he comparing it to? His light affliction. What is Paul comparing his light affliction to? And the Lord said he's comparing it to the cross. One thing is, and I'm not downplaying anybody's pain or suffering or what they went through, but there's nothing new under the sun. I know what I'm talking about, because the things that was done to me, I felt like I would never forgive them. I felt like that if I forgave them, I was releasing them, but I was imprisoning myself. And that was the hard part of it, and that I kept reliving this over and over. And I'm telling you, when you relive these things, you give them power. So he was comparing his light affliction to the cross of Jesus Christ. Nobody has ever on this earth suffered as much as Jesus. So we could talk about this all day long, about what was done to us, how it hurt us, how it made us feel. And what it does, it actually continues to close that trap on you even more. I've been betrayed. I've been done wrong. You may have. But one thing that I know, that I recognize what the trap looks like. And you know what? I'm not saying just because I wrote this book or writing this book or doing this podcast doesn't make me above the, immune to offense, because I'm not. But what separates me is that I know what the trap looks like. Yes, it's so easy to fall back into that trap of offense, but I know that I don't have time to waste, and neither do you, wallowing in this trap. That what it does, it continues to get, the grip gets stronger and stronger and stronger. Yeah, of course I've had people do me wrong, big time. And so have you. But we can't stay there. We can't afford to stay there. I've had people, misuse the word sorry and love, and I love you, and I'm so sorry, I'm sorry for hurting you. But at the same time, they were killing me with their words, with their actions, and they would hug me and stab me in the back at the same time, and I was the only one that was left bleeding. In Psalms chapter 55, verses 12 through 14, it says, "For it was not an enemy that reproached me. Then I could have borne it. but it was thou a man my equal, my guide, and mine acquaintance. This is a friend. This is somebody very close. And he says, we took sweet counsel together and walked unto the house of God in company. It hurts more when it's supposed to be someone that you've walked with, that you love, and they are supposed to love you. It's even more hurtful when you see someone you really look up to and they've fallen, and it's hard to get back up yourself. But we focus on our pain. It lingers on us, and we linger on it. So it's easier to focus on how we've been offended. It's natural to focus on the pain when we're the ones that have been offended. We just feel justified in our hearts, in our anger. We feel like we just need to hold on to it. We relive the words and actions that caused us pain. It becomes a cycle. And after a while, that cycle starts to define us. That doesn't even only define us, that cycle, but that cycle, when we say cycle, it means a revolving pattern, something that goes from you, the offender, the one that's offended, to the one that you start to offend others. It's a vicious cycle. So I've carried this for years. The physical pain faded, but the emotional scars stayed with me. I thought I moved past it because I was still functioning. I was still living my life. But the truth is I wasn't really living. I was surviving, if you want to call that survival. I was bearing the pain and hoping it would just disappear, but that pain that pain that's buried doesn't die. It takes root. And that's the thing about offense. It digs deep, and if we don't deal with it, it will deal with you. It will deal with you. And more dangerously, it starts shaping how we see God. And how we see people, how we see ministry, how we see everything, the world, everything. And I reached a point where I didn't trust and love anymore. I didn't trust and I didn't love because it didn't love me. People didn't love me, it felt like. And I didn't believe people could truly mean what they said, or when they cared about me, I didn't believe it because I've been hurt so much. And so have you. So the question is, does God love you? Absolutely, He loves you. And we can't focus on the hurt anymore. So we can't let sin against us create sin in us. So we need to focus on His Word and what He says about us rather than what other people say. Now, one of the things we see, we are in the last days. And Jesus warned us about this in Matthew 24, chapter 24, verse 10. It says, and then shall many be offended, many, and shall betray one another, and shall hate one another. That's how offense works. It doesn't just stay contained. If we don't deal with it, it multiplies. It turns into something far more dangerous, like an epidemic. So I had to come to terms with this fact that the pain I experienced wasn't just about me anymore. It was becoming a filter through which I viewed everything. It was affecting my attitude, my actions, and my relationships. And that's where the real danger lies, because offense doesn't just stop with the initial hurt. It has a way of reproducing itself in our hearts. It breeds resentment, anger, and bitterness. And if we're not careful, we'll start inflicting that same kind, that kind of pain on others that was inflicted on us, but it will multiply. So sin shouldn't multiply in us. So God's word to me, don't let sin against you create sin in you, where this needs to be a wake-up call for us. So I just want to leave you with that. And we're going to build onto this thing, and we're going to talk about the process. See, the thing is the next episode, we're going to talk about, where are you? You have to acknowledge where you are, and are you ready to come out of this? Because you don't have to spend years like I did. You don't have to spend years trying to wallow in your pain and your hurt and your suffering. It's not worth it. You only get one life to live, and you don't want to live it like this. I could guarantee you don't. So, God bless you. I hope this really ministers to you. I hope it wakes you up, because we can't afford to continue to be seeds of bitterness and hatred. So God bless you. You have a great, great rest of your day. Thanks for joining me today on Faith Works, real life, real truth. I hope you found something that speaks to you and helps you live out your faith more boldly. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to follow, like, and share the podcast with others. Until next time, stay grounded in truth and keep living out your faith.